Hello, Rebel Scientists. Today we are going to be talking about the topic of heredity, and we'll continue it on Wednesday. So let's see what the state of Texas has decided I should be teaching you and you should be learning. So we look at TEAC 7.14. It says that reproduction is a characteristic of living organisms and that the instructions for traits are governed in the genetic material. In TEAC 7.14a, it says one of the things you have to be able to do is to define the word heredity. And I have it here. It says the passage of genetic instructions from one generation to the next generation. So by the word passage, we're talking about the passing down of genetic instructions from one generation to the next. The next TEAC of 714D says that you are going to have to recognize that inherited traits of individuals are governed in the genetic material found in the genes within the chromosomes in the nucleus. So basically that says you just have to be able to point out, to learn the structures of where this information is held. And I think probably a more common word that we use is DNA or the genes. And that's what you have to know, that that's what carries instructions to make every organism on this planet is their genes or their DNA. So let's take a look at some of these vocabulary words I want you to know. The first one is traits. And it says traits are just a form of inherited characteristics. These are things that you inherit that make you you that you got from your parents. So I want you to give me some examples of characteristics that you inherited from people in your family from a previous generation. And that can be mom and dad, or your grandparents on your mom's side, grandparents on your dad's side, or even your great-grandparents. Some of you are lucky enough to still have them. Tell me what about you think came from any one of those folks. So here's my examples, and I wrote, don't write it down because this is my examples. So for instance, I inherited my curly hair from my dad. The shape of my face, the shape of my teeth and my jaw from my mom. The dark circles under my eyes, those came from my dad's mom, my grandma. So those are traits that I inherited from them. Some of you might have inherited, your height, your ability to play a musical instrument, etc. So I want you to give me some information about yourself where you think you got some of those characteristics. So give me a couple of examples that you think you inherited, and you can tell who they came from. The next vocabulary word is generation. It says the group of people that came or come before the next group of people. So the generation before me were my parents. The generation before you are your parents as well. And we now name these generations, right? So the silent generation are people who are over 76 years old. Baby boomers like myself are from 56 to 75 years old. I'm on the low end, not the high end there. Generation X, there's millennials from 26 to 40, and then y'all are part of what is called Generation Z. Those are folks that are from 5 to 25 years old. But if all those people were related that we see there in the cartoon, that little girl at the end would have got some genes with traits from that person before her, that millennial. That millennial would have gotten traits from the person before him, Generation X, and so forth. But really at the end, the little girl at the end, like yourself, Generation Z has gotten genes from all of those generations before her. So what we see there are what we call, the names we use to call these different generations based on their age. So it says, I want you to write each of the generations at the bottom of this page. You don't have to draw that picture. And add either a picture or the name of the relative that fits in that age group. They're either silent generation, baby boomer, Generation X, millennial, and then I would put a picture of yourself or put your name as Generation Z. So one thing I know I've never done that I said I was going to do is I was going to share some family pics. So I've included them here. Unfortunately, I didn't put my dogs in it, but I will at some point. But I'm going to show you where my genes come from and how I've passed down my genes. And it has to do, of course, with, it has to do with the genes I've passed down to my kids. So I said, my familia, I decided to share some photos of, my family. And I want you to tell me, do you think I look more like my mom or more like my dad? Do you think I resemble my brothers and my sister? What characteristics do you think? And this is based only on looks. There are some things that I inherited from my dad that don't have anything to do with looks, or I inherited from my mom that don't have anything to do with the way I look, but maybe more the way I act. And then I thought, well, if I'm showing you those pictures, I might as well show you the pictures of, my kids as well. And you can tell me if you think I look like them or not. And then I thought, well, I might also include pictures of my stepkids and all my grandkids that I have through my stepkids. My son and daughter aren't old enough to be married and have kids yet. But so I thought I'd just show you everyone. So this is my familia. And that's my parents, and then, of course, my brothers and sisters, and that's me at the very bottom there. I'm the youngest of 5. So it begins. So my parents are from what they call the silent generation. They're 76 plus years or older. My father actually has passed away, but my mom is 92, so she fits that generation. My brothers, my sisters, and I are what you call baby boomers. We're from age 56 to 75, and we're more on the younger side. We're not in the 70s yet. My stepson and my stepdaughter, oops, and I spelled daughter wrong there. And my stepdaughter, they are, let me spell that right, are millennials. They're between the age of 26 and 40. And then my kids are Generation Z, between 5 and 25 years old, like y'all. But what we see happens is that traits or characteristics are passed down from one generation to the next. So here's some of mine. Any day now. So we're an offspring of 2 humans. And the 2 humans that made me were Jorge Garcia and Elena Aleman Garcia. And here they are, younger, older. This is probably the last one, not one of the last pictures, but towards the end of my dad's life. But you can see, and so here I am when I was graduating from college, and you can tell me if you think I look more like my mom or I look more like my dad. Okay, so here's my brothers and sisters. And of course, we all share similar genes because, my parents are my brothers and sisters' parents as well. And some of the similar traits that we have is like we all have curly hair. My brothers, they all sound exactly the same on the phone. So, and look, there I am again. So, those are traits that are visible. Again, there's some traits that you can't see but like, oh, I walk just like my mom, or I sing like my dad, etc. And here's just some other pictures of us. This is probably when I was in middle school. What a dork, huh? But more pictures of us when we were younger and then a little older. So, do you think I share more physical traits of just what I look like, more like my mom, or more like my dad? You can tell me later what you think. Okay, so this is my little family. I thought I'd go ahead and include it. This is my husband, David, and this is an old picture of my kids, but I included it in here because I couldn't find all of them. So this is us, the Oguras. Again, my kids were pretty young here. This one was taken, I think, last year. My son Samuel, my husband, my daughter Paloma, and this is one of my kids, my stepson Joey and his wife, Samantha, and their kids, Josephine, or Jojo, and Jordan. And then again, this is my kids when they were younger. And this whole Japanese man is actually my husband's dad. So you can tell me if you think he looks Japanese at all. So here's my daughter Paloma, and again, she's Generation Z. I don't know if you think she looks like me or not. Here's my son Samuel, and again, he's the Generation Z as well. And I don't know why he's gotten into squinting when he takes a picture, but he did. But he looks probably more Japanese of all the kids. But there he is. I don't know if you think he looks like me at all or not. So, do you think my kids look like me or more like my husband's? And again, some traits you can see, like my son Samuel, he really likes math. He's definitely more analytical like my husband. So I think, he wants to be an engineer. It would make sense. And then my daughter Paloma, she loves science just like I do. So again, those are traits that you can't see, but are, there as well. And then I thought I'd just go ahead and show you the rest of the pictures of my family. This is, of course, an older picture. You can see my kids were probably from 10 years ago. And this is the rest of my family. This is my stepdaughter, Heather, and her husband, Jason. And actually, the two little girls are my stepdaughter's kids. And then these are her stepkids. And this is my stepson, Joey, and his children. And then the last picture is just all of us. This is from last Christmas. And that's it. It's we haven't added, or they haven't added any more kids. And again, you have to look. This is Jason and Heather, and these are their two kids. Can you see that they're a mix of both of them? And Jordan and Josephine as well, a mix of these two folks. So that's the end of my slide presentation. And now you know what all these crazy people I live with look like. Alrighty, guys. Bye-bye.